Hello, my fellow Red Wings. Welcome to November and Native American Heritage Month. I have some really awesome things to share with you, and some historical things to share with you. The image that you see here is of two Native American female dancers, and we're going to learn a little bit more about Native American dance, storytelling, language, history, and music. So, wow, what a day. We got a lot to get in here, don't we? All right. So, let's start in the beginning. Well, at least the beginning of when Europeans first came to the Americas, okay? So, the map of the United States right there is representational and it has some of the different tribes that were here before and some that still exist, maybe not in the same locations. And there's a history to that you'll learn if you haven't already learned some about it. When European explorers first arrived, there was a probable indigenous population of 60 million people, and that was in 1492. So what that means is that there was 60 million people in the Americas when Europeans first arrived. Unfortunately, when the Europeans came, they also brought their sicknesses, their flu bugs, their colds, smallpox, and some other little nasty bugs. And the folks that were in the Americas, the natives, didn't have any immunities to that. So after contact, about 90% of the pre-Columbian indigenous populations did not survive. So we lost a lot of people to disease after Europeans showed up. One of another aspect of Native culture is that natives used an oral tradition. There was very few of the tribes or cultures that had written language. Maybe some in South America, but for the most part, they used an oral tradition, which means they told stories to each other and to their young to educate them about the tribe's history, important lessons they wanted them to know, and different beliefs. So they use storytelling for that. And so the images that we have on the slide right here, the one top left, is of a storyteller sitting around the campfire or the fire, hearth fire actually, in this case, telling a story. And it kind of looks like they might be in a teepee, but I want to tell you something. I know that a lot of times when we are learning about natives or natives are represented in popular culture, the housing that is often shown with them is a teepee. But the reality of it is natives lived in many, many, many different types of housing structures. Teepees were used by some of the Plains Indians, but there were longhouses, there was igloos, there was pueblos, like there was all kinds of different housing. So this picture might be inside of a tent or a hide tent or teepee, but not all native tribes lived in teepees. To the right, you'll see a native dancer, and he's actually acting out one of the animals that is represented in a story that is part of the oral tradition of his tribe. And I have a story for you that I thought we could share. Here we go.
Story we just heard.
Oh my.
Okay, but one other thing that stories do is they teach us about nature. Now let me ask you this question. Who knows what a black bear looks like? Anyone know what a black bear looks like? Yeah? Does the black bear have a big long tail or a little short tail? He's got a little short tail. This is how the black bear got that little short tail. Well, this story happened a long, long time ago, back when the Great Turtle Island was brand new. And back at this time, there was an animal that lived in the forest that had a very long, very shiny, very puffy, very beautiful tail. And his name was Black Bear. Woohoo! That Black Bear loved tail more than almost anything else in the whole world. And he loved to stomp around and strut around and wave that tail up in the air. And he would say, "Everyone come out and look at my tail. Oh, it's the best around." and he would wave that tail up in the air for everyone to see. Oh, the other animals, they hated to hear the black bear say these things. But everyone was jealous also, because everyone had to admit that Black Bear had the best tail. Well, that bear, he loved his tail so much, he loved to stomp around and strut around and make fun of all the other animals. Look at you, Mr. Beaver, with your mashed up tail. Ah, ha, ha, ha. My tail is so much better than yours. And you, little raccoon, oh, ho, ho, with the funny stripes on your tail, my tail is much better than yours. Oh, he would make everyone feel very bad inside. Now, there was one guy who felt bad most of all, and his name was Fox. Fox also has a long, shiny, puffy, very beautiful tail. And Fox thought to himself, you know, if Black Bear didn't have his tail, then I would have the best tail in the whole forest. And Fox is a very tricky kind of guy. You got to be careful when you're around him. He'll make mischief for you if you're not careful. Well, one day the fox was sitting next to a pond of water, and it was wintertime, so that pond was frozen over with ice. When all of a sudden he heard that black bear crashing through the forest, coming down to the pond, talking about his wonderful tail. And oh, that just burned the fox right up. So he got one of these tricky fox ideas up in his head. He quick ran out onto the center of that pond, and he bent down, and he cut a hole into the ice. He took his pouch, and he took some dried corn and sprinkled it down into the hole. All the fish that were down below, they came up to get something to eat. And so he bent down and he scooped a couple of them out. He made a little pile right on the ice, right next to the hole. Just then the bear came to the edge of the pond, came crashing through the bushes. So as fast as he could, the fox, he sat down onto the ice, but he curled his tail up under him so it wouldn't fall into the water. Oh, hello out there! Hello out there, Mr. Fox, said the black bear. What are you doing with those delicious-looking fish? Because fish is one of Bear's favorite foods. Well, that fox, he's sitting there. He puts on kind of a sad face, and a sad voice, and he looks around. Good day to you, Mr. Black Bear. I'm just sitting here trying to catch some fish, but my tail is not very beautiful. It does not make a good fishing line. I'm afraid I'm going to be hungry later. Oh, wow, that bear, his ears, they perked right up. Someone was talking about fish. Someone was talking about tails. Woo! So he says, oh, Mr. Fox, I have a beautiful tail. Best in the whole forest. Maybe my tail would be a good fishing line. And this is just what the tricky fox wanted to hear. So he jumps up and says, oh, Mr. Bear, that's a good idea. Come on out here, and I'll show you what to do. Oh, that bear, he thinks he's going to get some fish. So he jumps himself up, and he goes running out onto that pond, and he gets out there, and he looks down, and he sees the fish. Oh, his belly starts to rumble. The fox says, now, Mr. Bear, you got to sit down right here on the ice, right next to the hole. Take that big, beautiful tail, stick it down in the water where the fish is. They'll think that it's food. They'll bite onto the end, and then you jump up and pull them out. And then we'll have a great feast. Oh, I don't know, Mr. Fox, said the bear. That water looks really, really cold. Well, that's the only way I know how to catch fish, said the fox, telling a fib. And there was only one thing in the whole world that Bear loved more than his tail, and that was a belly full of fish. So he says, okay, Mr. Fox, we'll catch these fish together. So he goes over to that hole, and he sits himself down on the ice, and he grits his teeth, and he sticks his tail down in the water. And he's sitting there, waiting for the fish. But do you think any fish ever come? No, not with his tail down in the water. So the fox, he runs around and gets behind the bear, and he stands there for a while, and he stands there for a while, and he knows there's no way that silly bear is going to catch any fish with his tail in the water. So he gathers up the fish that he already caught, and he sneaks away into the forest. He takes them back to his own den, and he roasts them up and bakes a wonderful meal for himself. Oh, he gets a full belly. Belly is so full that he lays down. He goes to sleep. He sleeps all night long. That night in the forest, there's a big storm. A lot of snow comes down. It gets to be very cold. The next morning when Fox wakes up, he pokes his head up out of his den. He looks around at all the new snow, and he thinks, I wonder if that bear is still sitting on the ice. And he decides to go and check. He goes walking down to the pond like a fox will do. He pokes his head up through the bushes, and when he looks out, he sees a huge mound of snow. And from underneath, he hears a great snoring sound. So he knows that Bear has fallen asleep. But then he sees something else, something that gives him another tricky idea. That hole in the ice, frozen up again, and Bear's tail is still down in the water. So now, as quietly as he can, the fox sneaks out onto the ice, and he gets up behind the bear, and then as loud as he can, he yells, "Now, bear, now, there are the fish, jump up, jump up, jump up!" And that bear is sitting there, and he wakes up with a start. Oh, the fish, he says, "I gotta get up." And he knocks all the snow off, and he jumps himself up, and he feels a great pulling on his tail. "I must have a giant fish," he says. Oh, he starts pulling. Oh, he's pulling. Oh, and finally, he falls forward. He spins around to see what kind of fish he caught. But do you think he sees any fish? Oh, no. All he sees is his tail wagging up at him out of the ice. That bear had pulled so hard, his tail had come right off. He spins around to see what's left. All he has is a little tiny stub. Oh, that fox, he's laughing and rolling around and holding his belly. Oh, too bad for you, Mr. Black Bear. Now I have the best tail in the whole forest. And the fox ran off to tell everybody what happened. Oh, that bear, he was so sad. He grabbed a hold of his tail. But he couldn't pull it out of the ice. It was stuck in there. He was so sad, he lumbered off into the forest, and he went and he found a cave. He crawled into that cave and laid down there, and he was so sad that he went to sleep, and he slept all winter long. And now, whenever the black bear sees snow come down, he sees ice on the ponds, he goes and gets into that cave. He stays there all winter. He doesn't want to take the chance of losing the little piece of tail that he has left. Donahoe, that story is done.
Donahoe.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is all the time that we have for stories right now. I do hope that you enjoyed them. I hope you enjoyed them at home also. Everybody wave goodbye to the people watching at home. There you go. Fantastic. If you like these stories, come on back. We got, I think, at 2:30. No, at 3 o'clock we're in here, and then 3:30.
So Donahoe means done, finished. And you'll hear often when a native storyteller of this tribe tells a story, when he's finished, it says Donahoe. But I don't know if you guys remember our asynchronous lesson this last time. We were talking about migration, and we were talking about the monarch butterfly. Well, now we just heard a story that has an animal in it that does hibernation, which means they sleep all winter long. So, and now we know why the black bear hibernates, because he's so embarrassed about losing his tail. Poor black bear. All right.